Looks like the same thing is happening again as it was a few weeks ago. More talk about downgrading the bonds from European Union member nations. This article was from November 27th, and it was talking about on Friday. I think that was November 24th. Standard & Poor's S&P downgraded Belgium's credit rating to AA from AA plus, saying it might not be able to cut its towering debt load anytime soon. And then also the rating agencies this week, and that was back a few weeks ago, cautioned that France could lose its AAA ratings if the crisis grew. So nothing was resolved from the meetings. Well, not much was resolved from the meetings on December 8th and December 9th, and also this past weekend. Today is Tuesday, December 13th. So they're talking about unless the European Central Bank steps in to help where politicians have failed, the euro breakup now appears probable rather than impossible. And it's my feeling. It's not so much a feeling, just the fact that I know what the powers that be want. They want the euro to continue. They're going to have the European Central Bank step in. I know they will. That's a guarantee. Talking about in today's news, they're saying the global markets, the stocks went higher, the euro recovered a little bit more. I don't see it. The euro is not really recovering. It's down to 131 to the dollar. It's talking about the Fed's Federal Open Market Committee holds its final scheduled meeting of the year later, but investors expect the U.S. Central Bank, the Federal Reserve, to hold off any offering to the economy for fresh stimulus because it's not sure what's going to happen in Europe yet. But it looks like there's going to be a hell of a lot more quantitative easing. But what I'm driving home, what I'm getting to a point is the same thing, and this is interesting because you look at gold, right? This is back on August 6th. Gold was around 1660, approximately 1656, 1660. And what happened? That's when they downgraded to AAA status at AA plus, and gold shot up to over $1,900 an ounce. So I think, that's one reason gold is really not being trashed too bad. It's holding pretty steady in a range. It went down because of the margin rate increases at the end of September, but it's really been holding up pretty well throughout the last few months. It's going up and down. It's in a tight range. So what I think is going to happen is they're going to start downgrading a lot of these European nation bonds, and you're going to see this fly up. I mean, they downgraded one nation, but and they have done some downgrading in the last few weeks, but they're probably going to knock out probably just about all the AAA rated nations and bring them down to AA plus or AA. So that's going to have to be bullish for gold. Little common sense. It has to be bullish for gold. This is something I want to point out. They're talking about, this is off the Federal Reserve, and let me get to that page here. This currency. There's been all these rumors about them coming out with this new $100 bill, and yeah, I know they're devaluing the currency, but here are these. Well, one in particular was Bob Chapman. He's been saying this since 2009. In 18 months, they're going to replace the currency. They're going to devalue it all this time. I got inside word, and it's going to happen. The banks are all ready, and I got my people told me this, and they're coming out with a new currency, and it's going to be devalued 50%, and he's been saying this since 2009. It's going to happen in 18 months. He's been saying it recently, not too long ago, probably in the last month. Same thing, by the end of 2012 or something like that. This is it. I mean, they have it. It's already, it's not what he's saying, though. I mean, I think the currency is going to be devalued, but that's just upon fundamental, a little bit of common sense. But it's really in April 2010, the U.S. government unveiled the design of the new $100 bill. The note's not in circulation, and they were having some problems because the way it was when it was being printed, there was sporadic creasing in the paper at the Bureau of Engraving and Printing, which manufactures the U.S. currency. This says the $100 note was redesigned to stay ahead of counterfeiting threats. It says right now there's no large-scale counterfeiting problems, according to them anyway, with the current design because of the portrait or watermark and color shifting ink. So they're just doing this for counterfeiting, and could argue the whole system's counterfeit. Now, just to maybe highlight something I said before, the way to really collaborate the Federal Reserve is to issue local currencies. You kill it by 1,000 cuts. If you have every single county or every single state issue local currencies, and people can have a lot better handle on what's going on in their little economies throughout the country. That could be used to augment, not in place of, but to augment the U.S. currency. That would be a serious competition to the Federal Reserve and to greatly diminish their power. I know central banks would hate that, and that's one way around getting rid of this stuff. But there is no like a replacement currency coming out that it's because the dollar's crashing and they're coming out with a new currency. I mean, it's right here out in the open. And, you know, this is a picture of it. It's going to be like a color currency. Almost looks a little bit like the euro. Not the same thing that was presented to, you know, you see on... I don't want to pick on a guy too much because he's not too bad. He does give some decent advice, but he's one that just throws out a lot of information. I don't know if it's 100% accurate all the time, but that's the note, and it's been thought of, and it's right out here in the open. The dollar is going to be devalued, but I don't know what, you know. There's nothing crazy out of the ordinary that's coming out. But my main point here is that we're going to look at, you know, this is the euro chart. And you're looking at gold, for instance, if it was in euros. I looked at the dollar price of gold, you know, in U.S. dollars. Now, if you're looking from that same time period, August 6th, when the U.S. Government's bonds were degraded from AAA to AA plus, from August 6th, the euro was 140 or 142 to the dollar, or maybe 144 in this range. Now it's 131 to the dollar. So in terms of euros, gold has actually been holding up pretty good. It's not been doing too bad at all. So I think there's going to be a lot more impetus to be buying gold, especially if it's almost a sure bet that they're going to be downgrading more to the nations, probably a whole pile of them in Europe that were AAA, downgrade them to AA plus or AA. And that's going to be coming up in the first quarter of 2012. So I think the metals are definitely, gold is definitely not in no bubble, no possible way. And that's where you're going to see it, you know, go way past this $1,900 mark when they start downgrading a lot of the European nations. But you got to remember, this is a chart priced in gold. Now you see what the euro's been doing. It went from 144 all the way down to 131. So you got a drop of almost, I don't know, about 10% practically in the value of their currency. So gold in euros would be about 10% higher. It'd be sitting maybe back way up here someplace, well over 1,700, like if you're thinking of it in dollars. So it's holding together a lot better in its value. So I think there's a lot of Europeans buying gold. It's very hard to get accurate numbers because, you know, I've been finding out every time I try to get really pinpoint with the numbers. I think there's so much, well, just from experience, there's a lot of ways you can show numbers, and there's a lot of things you can honestly do that will present a picture, maybe not 100% what the people want, what somebody wants to see. Because I think that what's really going on, there's a hell of a lot more precious metal sales going on than maybe you can dig the information out on. Because if I was a European and I was faced with these problems about currencies going down, or if I was in Greece and I was afraid about, you know, exiting the euro, and if you go to the drachma, what's going to happen? It's going to be a 50% devaluation probably right off the top, right there. And then you're looking at all these nations that are going to be downgraded. It's right out here in the open. I mean, anybody that has the real money, that has intelligence, would know. I'm not holding these euros. And I would not be necessarily holding U.S. dollars. I'd be buying gold. So I think there's a lot more precious metals buying going on behind the scenes. And I don't know exactly how the heck these markets are, when they're telling you like gold is this price or whatever the heck it is. This is a euro back again. But you can see, I mean, if you're sitting in this currency, it was like 145 down, it's 131. And, as far as the gold, I mean, I'd be jumping into this stuff left and right. So I think a lot of people in Europe are doing that. It's just that I think it's very difficult to just pull up on the web and say there's this much gold buying on because you buying going on because you probably don't have access to that information. I mean, you got to go by the numbers, but sometimes you got to go by what is going on in the heads of the Europeans. You think they're jumping into the U.S. dollar as much? I don't think so. That's why I got a feeling this prices of these precious metals is going to explode at one point in time. I mean, literally explode, because I think there's a lot of hidden things going on that you really can't dig the numbers out on. But just use a little common sense. If you're European or you're Chinese or you're Indian and you're uncertain about what's going on in the future, there's got to be a hell of a lot more precious metal buying going on. So there may be a serious explosion in the price of these precious metals coming up this year.